what Flourish do. Oh, I'm going to start that again. I said Flourish somehow. Sorry about that. Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Make Things Better podcast. Today I have Robyn Fletcher on the show to talk to us a little bit about Sheffield Flourish. So thank you for coming on today. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about how you got into working for Sheffield Flourish and what they do?
Thanks for having me. How I got involved with Sheffield Flourish could be a long story.
Go on, we've got time.
I guess for me, I've always been interested in the wider issues that society faces. So I grew up in Sheffield, so I'm Sheffield born and bred, and grew up kind of in an area where I was overlooking Sharrow and also Nether Edge. So on one side, it was very interesting. You'd have lower economic kind of backgrounds, and then on the other side, you had quite wealthy kind of big houses and assumingly bigger opportunities and stuff. So, and amongst all that, family-wise, we have gone through quite a few difficult times of what you'd call actual traumas and stuff. So I always knew I wanted to do something that was helping people, but I didn't know how that looked. So I'd gone through my teenage years, and then studied health and social care, social policy and sociology. Became really interested in stuff that I've already mentioned, the wider society issues that we face and how they impact us. But also, I guess on the other side is how individually we, depending on something simple like where we're born, can affect our opportunities and therefore stuff like our mental health. So after studying those things, I got involved with charities in Zambia, fell in love with charities. And, charities generally have to be very flexible and kind of adapt to what's going on around them, fast-paced, creative, and they're the kind of things that I enjoy and thrive being around. And then my career kind of took me through working in addictions and then Sheffield Flourish,
right.
Which I'll tell you a little bit more about what Sheffield Flourish do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
So we work collaboratively on innovative digital and community-based projects. So a lot of it is, I guess, our values are around tapping into people's strengths and skills, and understanding that a lot of people have mental health difficulties and challenges. So we do that with the blended model of community-based things and digital-based things. So community-wise, we run loads of different groups. So they are anything from we've got art group, creative writing, loads of different music groups music production, a jamming group, music lessons, improvisation, gardening, drama, football, and a women's team as well, which I go to, which I think I'm getting all right at now, hopefully.
So, do you play?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I play. And they're all mental health friendly spaces, so anyone can go with any skills, and you don't need a diagnosis as well to go to them. So some of it's about prevention and just building on people's skills and getting kind of that community network, and preventing stuff like isolation as well, which is quite important, obviously. And then digitally, as you'll know, because we work with Hive IT on these, we have 4 different websites. So we've got Sheffield Flourish, which is the, I guess it's a blend of real life and digital, because there's nearly 400 different stories on there of people with lived experience. So it's people sharing their experiences, and generally people get a lot out of that because you can either read them to relate to it or to understand things. It's breaking down stigma as well. And you can see all the groups that are available on that website. And then we've got the Sheffield Mental Health Guide, which is the signposting website. So it's a one-stop kind of shop to see where any mental health friendly activities or support is. And then we've got a Sheffield Suicide Support and Prevention website. So the Sheffield Suicide Support and Prevention one is, is what it says. It's kind of for anyone who's experiencing mental health, not mental health, but I guess suicidal thoughts or feelings, or looking for someone else or someone who's bereaved through suicide. And then there's My Toolkit, which is your online digital wellbeing toolkit, which was launched just before the pandemic.
And that's like a freeing space where people can just like journal and write about how things are going and maybe put their goals and so on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it links to the mental health guide as well, which is quite nice because you can pull through like the support from there as well as putting your own things in, like if you went to yoga or something like that. But yeah, and they were all co-produced as well with people who have lived experience of mental health, which I think is a really nice.
Yeah, because then it makes it a bit more inclusive, and it's like that that's hopefully going to help people because it's going to be more relatable. If it's like starting off with the user first, that's the best way to help people, right?
Exactly. I think that's why we really love working with you guys as well, because like we can tell from all the work that you do that, you know, everything that you do is based around like what the user needs from that website, and you guys do that really well with like all the workshops that you do and user research and design and personas and stuff like that. And it's like, I feel like Sheffield Flourish and Hive share like a lot of the same values in that, of how we can use digital to improve things and make things better, which is something like I think I've always been interested in as well throughout, you know, like just studying stuff like social policy and sociology. There was like, amongst all that, like digital and communications for me is really interesting in how we can use it in a really positive way to reach people or do good somehow.
I think today often digital can be used in the wrong way as well, and
Exactly.
that definitely contributes to a lot of people's mental health issues. Like just talking from my experience and talking to friends, like the amount of friends I have nowadays who are suffering in one way or another, and I do think a large contributor certainly is social media and digital. So to have like an alternative to that with Sheffield Flourish and the mental health guide and my toolkit and Sheffield suicide support is really nice, and I think we're very grateful to be a part of that. And also I think we're very grateful for not just our collaboration with Sheffield Flourish, but also like all of the users that actually get involved and help out and put their ideas forward, because it is like a community built website, and a lot of the stuff we're doing is like it's built by the actual users, which is like just so special about it.
It makes it feel more meaningful, doesn't it, and inclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess we're constantly always trying to get more feedback and develop them as well.
So what sort of work do you get up to there at Sheffield Flourish?
All sorts. So I'm deputy managing director there, but mostly work on like the digital and communications things. So every day is completely different. I think especially because we have so many different great partnerships around Sheffield, including like with yourselves. So it completely depends on what projects I'm working on, really, but a lot of it is around partnerships, working on the websites, developing them, and also just day-to-day running of things. So like I have quite a lot of kind of leadership on the cast art group, although it is led by volunteers, it needs staff overseeing like certain groups and stuff. So yeah, I love how it's different every day.
Do you think the way in which that you were like brought up in Sheffield, where there's quite a lot of inequality, you know, you mentioned how you've seen like some areas maybe in Sheffield and you've got the big houses in Neveridge, do you think that's contributed to you doing the role that you're doing now? Like I feel like you mentioned that already, but in your job, do you see how inequality could impact mental health as well? I think that's the question I'm asking.
It's interesting that I started it, you know, talking about where I was brought up, because that I don't think that ever like really dawned on me, that might have had some sort of impact. And I think, you know, like kind of experiences that I've had, my own like lived experiences, definitely made me go into the job that I'm doing, and I think has made me hopefully more understanding of the fact that everyone's individual and has gone through different things. But I think there's something massive about, and I'm really interested about like inequalities and how we can help overcome them in some ways. Like just being able to, so if we think about like digital communications, something that I think we can do positively with them is even use them for things like messaging or education somehow. I know not everyone can reach digital, but communications we could do different ways to help with things like could be simple like clear mental health messaging or where to go. And so not everyone has the same access to things like education or health, and I think something that I love about Sheffield Flourish and working with Hive is that we think about those things when we think about the audience of the website, and we continue to develop them. So something I really enjoyed working on recently was developing part of my toolkit. So reaching out to Disability Sheffield to discuss how we could make that website more inclusive for people with learning disabilities who, disproportionately haven't had as much opportunities as the rest of us and stuff. So I think it's kind of like how we build on those things and how can we do things to help inequalities.
Yeah, and I think another thing that kind of ties into this is with sort of mental health and just thinking about like my toolkit, for example, having the kind of luxury to even like buy a therapist or buy a coach or something like that. You need money for that kind of thing. So obviously Sheffield Flourish is free support, and I feel like that kind of helps to bridge that gap, because your average person is not really going to have the time or money to spend on things to support their mental health necessarily.
Yeah, I think it's that stuff like what's happening in the community. Like, that's a massive thing. I know not everyone, if we're talking about mental health, is well enough to always go to things within the community, but there aren't many like mental health friendly places in Sheffield to go to. Like our CAS group, for example, which is the art group, is quite over capacity because there aren't many other places to go to that are free.
So there's like high demand.
Yeah, there's a high demand, definitely. And I think there's something there about like, if we think about mental health support, a lot of it, we probably think about more clinical support and having, unless you're on a waiting list, you have to pay, like you said, for a therapist. And that's actually quite a luxury. Like, definitely not everyone can access that. But what we forget when we think about mental health sometimes is like actually like just doing things like just being able to be in a safe place to do creative things. That's not clinical, and it isn't like, go into...
Like, it's not for your mental health. It's just, it's there and it's accessible. It's like part of that community. Right? Yeah, that makes sense to me. So what's your like vision for Sheffield Flourish? I don't know if this is even something you've thought about much, but like, how do you see this impacting people in Sheffield more in the future?
I think there's a few ways that I could probably go with this question. I think the impact is something that I see already and want to see more of. So I think like, if we think about the pandemic, one thing I think I've struggled with, and I think obviously a lot of people probably, especially maybe in similar kind of charities to Sheffield Flourish and stuff, is like, it's felt quite stagnant, like as in, I really enjoy thinking about strategy and where we can go forward and, the vision stuff that you're talking about, but like the strategy was more about how we deal with the pandemic and not how we grow as a charity. It was like, how do we survive and how do we keep open and how do we, keep thinking about the community and the groups that we work with. And we've managed to keep the groups open, when we've been able to safely and stuff, and we've been allowed. And the impact that I see is something that I think, unfortunately, we can't put down in paper on to commissioners or to people out there. So obviously we do our reports and say we've seen people increase, their well-being, or they've got new skills from coming to Sheffield Flourish, or we've got people signposted from Sheffield Mental Health Guide into the correct support and stuff like that. So we see all that, but then it's like, it's that community feel that I see, that impact of like how we've got our culture right. So our activity room, where most of the activities run, is in the office. So we see people walking in and out. So I'll go in the office tomorrow on a Friday, and there's a music group running, and it's like it's loud, it's buzzing. People are like just looking, beaming that they're involved in something or learning new skills, or they're coming up and telling me about how they've done guitar today, or they're singing, and that's something that you can't put down on paper to describe. And that's what I want to see more moving forward. But I guess the other thing is, and this is quite a nice story actually, we did a reach out because we were like, we want to up our game on social media. because, you know, why wouldn't we want to try and keep like upping our game? And
you're already doing quite well.
Yeah, well,
I think you've got like 5 or 6 times as many followers as us, which we love to see. So.
We're doing good. But I think, again, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, but like stuff like social media felt like you're just behind, like working from home, maybe on like Buffer or whatever account you're using, and it's not very collaborative, and you're not getting across what you're really doing that well.
It sounds like you're so active and busy, like there'd be so much to share. Like you could have, you know, videos of people, maybe like interviews, like there's a lot of scope there.
Yeah, so we did that reach out, and I was trying to find some like social media training, and it was really hard to find some. Like there doesn't seem to be much out there that's like, you know, like readily available to be like bespoke. And this organisation called Little Masters, who I think started in the pandemic, who are like a social media agency, got in touch with us, and they want to give their free time to us. So instead of like donating money, to come and do some work with us around like how we can do more things on social media and stuff, and TikTok did to get mentioned.
TikTok? You're going to get on TikTok there?
I don't know, I think so.
Whenever good TikTok gets mentioned at Hive, I'm like, I'm obvious.
It looks like hard work, but it would be great to show all the groups and stuff, wouldn't it? So I guess that's like a bit of a vision moving forward.
That sounds great, and I love that story of you kind of seeing everyone there, you know, like you get to actually witness it firsthand, the difference and the impact that Sheffield Flourish are having. So that must be quite special for you. Like you can, you know, sleep well at night, hopefully. I think they were all my questions I had. Did you have anything else about Sheffield Flourish that you maybe wanted to discuss?
I don't know. I don't think so.
No, we'll wrap it up then. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Robyn. Appreciate your time. Where can people find Sheffield Flourish on social media? Well, try and get that follower count up even more.
Well, Twitter is at Chef Flourish. So at Chef Flourish. And then there's the Chef MHG one, which is the Sheffield Mental Health Guide. Probably best just going on www.sheffieldflourish.co.uk and everything's from there. Yeah,
okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for watching or listening, and I do hope you have an amazing rest of your day.